and then it cuts. And the next thing you see is me wearing like a toque, a jacket, boots, and I'm laying like in a fetal position on a pile of dirty like Vancouver snow, just crying. Like, and that's it.
It was actually a wonderful relief to be out of the stifling heat and bustle of town. The forest provided a literal breath of fresh air. But after traveling light in Mexico, we seem to have too much stuff again.
We need another container.
This is Ferdinand. Ferdinand's mom is our creative guru, dear friend, and a founding member of the Dream Fulfillment Society.
Hi guys.
I met Ferdinand's mom when I was still stuck in a lack perspective. So it was only years later that I was able to tap into the depth and quality of this human soul. She is a healer, teacher, storyteller, and guide for those lucky enough to work with her.
Hello, my beautiful loves.
For better or worse, Finding a Way would never have existed if it weren't for her tireless support and encouragement. We are forever entwined with and indebted to her. Lucky for us, she travels a lot for work and has been kind enough to let us stay at her place in Vancouver for 3 weeks while we prepare for Portugal. Today we are celebrating because it's Neil's birthday. Happy birthday to you.
I woke up to a special birthday gift, a cold. And when we left the apartment, we realized we had a parking ticket on our window for parking within 12 feet of a stop sign. We were parked over 10 feet from it. We measured. This was not the warm welcome back we'd hoped for from Vancouver.
But we still had business to attend to, and getting my passport renewed was first on our list as it was expiring in a few months. And when you apply for a visa, you want to start and finish with the same passport to avoid confusion. The lineup was long, and we did not make it in that day. So we decided to go ask the Portuguese consulate a few questions. But that didn't work either.
And so another day passed without our plans moving forward. With so many to-dos, we didn't have time to fret. When we sold our condo and stored our things, we carefully chose a company that sold as well as rented their containers, just in case we wanted to use the container as a garage or storage on our property. We called to arrange the purchase of our container to ship later to Europe, but they informed us that this was not a possibility. They told us that they sold shipping containers and rented them, but that you could not buy a rental.
This was devastating news to receive, and we tried very hard to convince them to retire our stuffed rental container to sell to us, but with no success. At this point, we decided to take the day off.
We had a long walk through our favorite places in Vancouver, including our old neighborhood. Feeling restored and ready to face our new big problem, we returned to the apartment to find our back window had been smashed in.
Nope.
This was not awesome. Ironically, we had just found a lock for the back canopy window, which, as it was out of production, was a task that had taken us months to achieve. Also of note, there was nothing inside of the canopy other than the fitted plug-ins for camping with that particular vehicle and canopy, and the vandal didn't even take them.
A senseless crime is somehow a more gutting crime. Sometimes, when life hands you a bag of dicks, you've just got to eat them, balls and all. We had planned to get my passport renewed, start our visa application, and buy a ticket to scout out Portugal. Then come back to deal with all of the other nonsense with buying a container and moving our things into it. Now, with the prospect of replacing our canopy window, we were entertaining the idea of getting these things done before we go to Portugal. To help us decide, we made a before or after list.
We often use this kind of tactile approach to lists and planning. Then we put it up somewhere to live with it until we can make a fully thought out decision. We eventually decided doing all of these things before going to Portugal, though inconvenient, made the most sense. So we signed up for a house and pet sitting app and applied for a couple of longer-term sits on Vancouver Island, near our container.
While in Vancouver, one of our friends suggested we ask her brother and sister-in-law if we could stay in their unoccupied first-floor suite. We were a bit apprehensive, but she texted us later and they had agreed to house us. Their place was in the same area as the old cabin we used to stay in, and 10 minutes from our storage container. That good fortune was temporarily overshadowed when I got sick too, followed by a bout of vertigo.
That's when we decided it was time to go. Vancouver was obviously trying to kill us.
Another great thing happened over our 3 weeks in Vancouver. We went for drinks with our friends, one of whom is Irish. When we told them our new plans, they asked why we weren't going the EU passport route. I explained that my grandparent was born in Northern Ireland, so I would only be entitled to a British passport, and since the UK is no longer part of the European Union, it would not help us. She scoffed and quickly informed us that Northern Ireland is on the island of Ireland and therefore part of the European Union. This education was a great and perfectly timed gift.
we arrived at our new abode to fresh baked cookies and a bowling ball shaped cat, whose suite we were about to inhabit.
We were responsible for feeding and brushing her daily. We took to our duties begrudgingly. We walked in the forest every morning, then again in the afternoon. And sometimes in the evening too. So we're in a familiar place, near where the cabin was. We're very happy. It's very natural and wonderful, doing the kind of stuff we like. Got back from Mexico, went to Vancouver, which I'm sure we've showed you by now. It became kind of like a funny, we were like joking that Vancouver was trying to kill us.
Yeah.
But we think we're just over it, and you know, the feeling is mutual. It's over us as well, and that's fine. But we just had quite a few things go wrong in a 3-week period there, and it was really great to see friends and all that stuff, but it was just comical how much it feels like the fates are trying to keep us out of Vancouver in particular.
It's not for us anymore.
But that's fine, we already knew that. And then the main reason we're here is, you know, as you know, we have our sights set on Portugal. We're kind of doing all the stuff you have to do to move to another country. It's
so much logistical.
It's not easy. Like there's a time
Legwork.
when you could just get on a boat and, you know, land and start a life, but that's not it now. And one of the biggest hassles that we're dealing with, we only have a few things, but they're big things, and it's hard to get the answers. And the big thing that we're dealing with here is our storage container that has Neil's shop and our home. You've seen it. Do you want to elaborate on?
So we learned that although they sell containers and they rent containers, they do not sell their rental containers. Now we have to figure out where to buy another shipping container from, put it next to this current container, and move our entire life from one to the other so that we might one day ship it to Portugal.
Which felt pretty devastating, as I'm sure we've mentioned already, but you know, in hindsight, we've already done all the hard stuff. In fact, we've done the inventorying, all these different things that are helping us. There's always more than you expect, more costs, something you missed, and we're planners, so we want to like try and get out ahead of as much of these things. If we didn't look into it like we have, we'd realize that our container we have can't be sold. So somebody would have to move it for us, and we'd have the keys. It wouldn't make any sense. So it's really great we started looking into this. So that's, you know, to our benefit, even though it doesn't feel like it. And you also pay like a ton of import fees and stuff if you don't get the right certificates, etc. here ahead of time. So that's what we're trying to do. We don't want to just waste money. We want to make the most of what we have, you know, and not have to get back into some silly rat race that we don't believe in. So we're learning all the ins and outs of
what makes a container seaworthy as opposed to a retired container that many people just use for storage, and a whole bunch of other weird stuff we would never know about if it weren't
trading
for this.
fees.
Yeah, whether it's cheaper to do sections of it over land or
whether it's
logistics.
your responsibility to crane that container onto a train or a barge, or if that's the freighting company, which seems like it's a really obvious answer, but it turns out it's not what most people would think. So we're just figuring all that stuff out, and we are so lucky to have another place in this wonderful area that just seems to call to us. There's a symbiosis that takes care of us. So not to make light of our wonderful, wonderful hosts who are just so kind and generous to us.
Absolutely. We're so lucky, and the place we're staying is mere minutes from our shipping container, which is a huge help.
Yeah.
A huge help logistically.
But then all the things happened in Vancouver that made us have to call attention to take care of some things ahead of time. So we're kind of planning to be here. Kind of depends on how quickly some things come together. But we're so lucky to be in a place where we're like, that's okay.
Yeah,
and
the timeline is not a pressured one.
And we're nourishing our souls and, amongst the arbutus trees and doing things that we like.
Yeah.
And we're so close.
We're so close.
Then we just have to buy some tickets and then,
go explore.
Find a home.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a big, long update. The ravens just went by.
Yeah.
That must mean we're done.
It's a good sign.
Probably put some gloves on, huh?
Yeah, be careful.
Locking glass back door, we hardly knew ye. Thanks, Vancouver.
Thanks, Vancouver.
We started working on getting Megan's Irish passport application together. Every morning we walked endless roads of farmland and the forests we had missed so much. Spring was everywhere, and as such, we decided to help out our hosts a bit with some spring cleaning.
St. Patrick's Day was special for us this year. I was well on the way to inheriting a great gift from a granddad I'd never met. The fact that he was able to help me to achieve my dreams was a wonderful feeling.
So many things we previously believed are not so. The positive reconnection with this sacred place seemed more important than any of our bad luck. Again and again, we see in hindsight that nothing ends up how it seems at first glance. We've had setbacks lead us to the important things we certainly would have missed. We've learned that you can be aided by a relative you've never even met. and we're about to be healed by the salve of great kindness from strangers. The moral is to be open and curious. If things aren't going well, wait. The story hasn't reached its completion yet.
March's transition felt like coming home. We were 7 months homeless now, and though we had been on a wonderful adventure, there had also been much heartache and discomfort. From accepting defeat in our original dream of owning a property on a Gulf island, to rerouting to Portugal, and everything in between. Receiving this level of generosity and kindness worked like medicine to face the challenges ahead. And so we found ourselves in a placebo-style environment, helping maintain and improve a property and home just like the one we had envisioned for ourselves. Free of rent from more or less strangers, in an area that we hold sacred, but that we haven't had access to. Maybe this is what our compass was leading us to all along.
It felt like this environment was the perfect bridge to our new lives. And it offered up joyfully what we needed so that we could dream bigger than we originally were able to.